Have you ever wondered about the rhythm of nature? You know, that constant push and pull, that back and forth between a predator and its prey? Well, it turns out there's a beautifully simple set of equations that describes it. Today, we're going to break down the Lotka-Volterra model, the math behind that timeless natural dance.
All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll get a feel for that predator-prey dance. Then, we're literally going to build the model's equations from the ground up, piece by piece. After that, we'll see the wild cycles it predicts, poke some holes in the perfect little world it assumes, and finally, see why this model is still so incredibly important today.
Okay, let's dive right into part 1, a predator-prey dance. At its heart, this is all about finding a way to capture one of nature's most fundamental rhythms. So, that's the big question, right? How on earth can you take something as wild and complex as the relationship between, say, lynx and snowshoe hares and boil it down to pure mathematics? Well, the answer came from not one, but two brilliant minds, who came up with the exact same idea at almost the exact same time without even knowing about each other. You had Alfred Lotka in 1925 and Vito Volterra in 1926. When something like that happens, you know you're onto something truly fundamental. All right, time to roll up our sleeves. In this next part, we're going to become architects and actually build this thing. We're going to assemble the equations piece by piece so you can see exactly where each part comes from. Okay, so every model needs its players. First up, the prey. We're just going to call their population size n. Think of it as the number of rabbits in a field, for example. And of course, you can't have prey without predators, so their population size is p. The number of foxes hunting those rabbits. Easy enough to remember. N for the prey, P for the predators.
So let's look at the prey's side of the equation first. What happens if there are no predators around? Well, they just multiply. This first part, Rn, represents that. It's simple, unchecked exponential growth. Imagine a world with infinite food and no foxes. Those rabbits would just keep on growing forever. But we all know that's not how it works. Predators exist, so we have to subtract a loss term. That's ANP. Think of it this way. The more prey, N, and the more predators, P, there are, the more they're going to run into each other, right? That little a is just a number that represents how good the predator is at catching the prey. It's the attack efficiency. So, more interactions means more prey get eaten. Makes perfect sense. Okay, now let's flip to the predator's side. What's good for them? Well, eating prey, of course. So their growth comes from that very same interaction we just talked about, the ANP part. But here's the key. For every rabbit a fox eats, it doesn't instantly create a whole new fox. So we multiply it by B, which is basically the food to new predator conversion rate. It's how efficiently they turn a meal into more of themselves. And last but not least, predators don't live forever. They get old, things happen. So we have to subtract their natural death rate, which is just DP. If there's absolutely no food around, this is how quickly their population would shrink. And there you have it. You put all those little pieces together, and you get these two beautiful intertwined equations. For the prey, it's their natural growth minus getting eaten. For the predator, it's the growth they get from eating minus their natural deaths. That's it. That elegant pairing is the entire heart of the Lotka-Volterra model. So we've built the machine. Now what does it actually do? What happens when you let these equations run over time? That's what we're looking at next, the absolutely wild, inevitable cycle they predict. And here is the big reveal. The model predicts that these populations don't just settle down to some happy medium. No way. They are locked in an endless oscillating chase. They rise and fall, over and over, in a perfectly predictable, continuous cycle. Let's walk through this dance step by step. Okay, start with lots of prey and not many predators. What happens? The prey population explodes. It's a feast. So, after a little time lag, the predator population starts to boom too. But what happens when you have tons of predators? The prey population gets decimated. It crashes. And once the food is gone, you guessed it, the predator population crashes right behind it, which of course leaves the few remaining prey with no one to hunt them, and the whole cycle starts all over again. Now, check this out. There's another really cool way to visualize this. Instead of plotting population against time, let's plot the number of prey directly against the number of predators. What you get is this, a perfect closed loop, an ellipse. This endless circle is what scientists call neutral stability. It basically means the cycle just keeps going. But here's the weird part. If something bumps it, say a harsh winter kills off half the prey, the system doesn't bounce back to the same circle. It just starts a new one.
It's stable, but it doesn't really self-correct.
Okay, a perfect, repeating, endless cycle. That sounds a little too clean, doesn't it? Well, you're right. That's because the model operates in a kind of fantasy land with some very specific rules. So let's take a look at the core assumptions behind this idealized world. So what are the rules in this perfect little world? Rule 1, prey have an all-you-can-eat buffet of resources. There's no carrying capacity. Rule 2, predators are super picky eaters. They only eat this one species of prey. Rule 3, the environment is perfectly stable. No droughts, no floods. And here are the two big ones. Predators have bottomless stomachs. They never get full, and they react instantly to more prey. I mean, as you can probably tell, not a single one of these things is true in the real world. Let's tackle that first one head on. The model says prey can just grow forever, exponentially. But in reality, there's always a limit. A forest can only support so many deer. A pond can only support so much algae. That's called the carrying capacity, and it means real growth is logistic. It starts fast, but then it always levels off. And what about that bottomless stomach idea? The model pretends predators are like Pac-Man, just gobbling dots nonstop. But a real lion? After it takes down a zebra, it has to, eat it and digest it. That all takes time, which we call handling time. And eventually, it gets full. This is a huge deal. It means that even if a predator is surrounded by prey, there's a limit to how many it can possibly eat in a day. That's a type 2 functional response, and it's a much more realistic picture of how things actually work. So at this point, you might be thinking, this model is built on a bunch of flawed ideas. Why are we even talking about it? And that is a fantastic question, because the magic of this model isn't in its perfection, it's in its flaws. Let's see how we can go beyond the model. When scientists first tried to test this in a lab, it was a total disaster. A guy named Goss put 2 types of microorganisms in a test tube, and the predator just ate all the prey and then starved to death. No cycle. But then, another scientist, Huffaker, did this amazing experiment with mites on a tray of oranges. The key difference? He made the environment complicated. He added little posts for the mites to climb and barriers. He gave the prey places to hide. And what happened? He got the cycles. Perfect Lotka Volterra oscillations. It proved that complexity, the very thing the model leaves out, is actually what makes the dance possible in the real world. So let's put this all together into a practical toolkit for you. When you're looking at any predator-prey data, here's your Lotka Volterra checklist. First, does the predator peak come after the prey peak? If yes, you're likely seeing classic LV dynamics. Are the cycles a constant height? That points to that theoretical neutral stability. Does it look like the prey could just grow forever? That means the model is ignoring carrying capacity. And is the predator's consumption rate a straight line going up? Well, that's a model that doesn't believe in full stomachs. Use this checklist and you can start to see the model's fingerprint on the real world and also see where reality starts to push back. Which leads us to the final and most important question. If the model is wrong about so many things, why is it still taught in every single ecology class? Why is it considered the bedrock of the field? Because its purpose was never to be a perfect photograph of nature. Its purpose was to be a starting point, a simple, elegant idea that was just wrong enough to make us ask all the right questions. Questions about limits, about behavior, about environmental complexity. The Lotka Volterra model didn't give us the final answer. It gave us the blueprint for a century of discovery.